The Philadelphia Experiment, a naval military project that took place in 1943. During World War II, the US Navy was conducting experiments aimed at making their ships undetectable to enemy radar. The project involved the use of a range of technologies, including electromagnetic fields, in an attempt to achieve this goal. Despite its controversial nature, the Philadelphia Experiment has captured the public's imagination and has been the subject of numerous books, films, and documentaries. Today, we will delve into the mystery of the Philadelphia Experiment, examine these technologies used, and discuss the impact and legacy of this mysterious event. After the end of the experiment, the ship enters the Greek fleet under the name Leon. It's interesting what the Greek journalist Pantolos discovers when he goes to find out if such an experiment was really carried out. He inspects that the entire ship, including the ship's logbook, and also manages to get an interview from two officers who served Leon. One of them served as a captain of Leon, and when he realized that the entire Greek fleet but himself knew that the Leon was the famous destroyer Eldridge of the Philadelphia Experiment, he noticed two strange things. About one of them, he says the following: "The pages of the ship's log corresponding to the time of the experiment are missing. They're torn off. I asked 3 other captains who had served on the Leon before, and they all replied that the pages had been missing from the log since the ship had passed to the Greek fleet." The other strange thing, the accounts of the crew members who claimed to have seen strange things on the ship, something like ghosts or phantoms, and that several times their belongings having disappeared suddenly were later found in another place. Some claimed to have seen a greenish light enveloping the ship at night. If the testimony of this officer sounds strange, the words of the other who served on the ship as a chief engineer are no less weird. The first thing that struck me, the sailor recalled, was the unusual amount of cables stretched throughout the ship, as if they were remnants of a complex system of electrical equipment used here in the past. This marine engineer added that he sometimes notices a strange vibration throughout the hull when the engines were running, as if the ship was under repair in dock. I was with one of the officers and I thought an earthquake was starting, but then I realized that there was no seismic activity in the area where we were that day, he explains. What can explain all this? Just self-suggestion or an echo of the strange phenomena that somehow got written into the structure of the ship. Now we'll go back to the time of conducting the experiment. The interesting moment is that the two brothers, Duncan and Edward Cameron, start to run away from the ship. They suddenly find themselves 40 years later miles from the port in Philadelphia. The two travel through time, return, and then detail classified information about US projects that gives us an idea of what happened to the Eldridge ship and the Philadelphia Experiment. How did this happen, and did it really happen? The Philadelphia Experiment took place on August 12, 1943, but 40 years later, on August 12, 1983, the same experiment was conducted again, and Al Bielek claimed to have the memories of Edward Cameron's life, as according to him, the secret government was given alien technology with which a person could regress to any age. Subsequently, this statement was confirmed and Leading Edge News contacted Al and conducted an open interview to find out what really happened. Stay until the end to hear the whole story and see some of the predictions he made for the future. Bielek told his story to an audience at the Mutual UFO Network conference in 1990, saying not only that the Philadelphia Experiment was real, but that he and his brother were on board when it happened. He said that none other than Nikola Tesla himself designed the equipment that caused Eldridge to escape from space-time, and that even opened a wormhole to the future that dropped the two brothers into the middle of the Hero Montauk camp on August 12, 1983. Surely many of us would like to be in his place at least for a while. He was born in 1927 in America and worked for various military subcontractors. He participated in secret projects related to time travel, meetings with extraterrestrials, and top-secret inventions that we either read about in the books or we see in the movies. Assisted and created various covert and secret programs such as psychological operations involving the search for UFOs, which the Pentagon has officially recognized as true. But all this has a price, and because of this, Bielek is deprived of his family, memories, and identity. Technology was often used on him, with which his memories were erased, but of course, like any technology, this one also made its mistakes, and after a while, the process was reversed, and he not only remembered everything erased, but also received glimpses of the future. The age regression technique had been traced back to Nikola Tesla. While working on the original Philadelphia experiment, he developed a device to help sailors in case they lost their time points. The purpose of this device was to restore an individual to their normal time lock in case they were disoriented as a result of time travel. The government or someone used this Tesla device and developed it for temporal regression of the body. Tesla said that if an individual's time points were moved forward in time, it could remove age. If someone's time points are moved back 20 years, the body will be relative to the age. Edward Cameron has become Al Bielek. Al grew up with his own identity in education and became an engineer. Finally, he started working in Montauk. Here is what he explained in an interview. Bielek and his brother Duncan were naval officers aboard the ship Eldridge involved in the experiment aimed at achieving invisibility. The first test on July 22, 1943 was successful in achieving radar sight and camera invisibility, but the people on board were badly affected by the electromagnetic radiation, leaving them disoriented and ill. During the experiment, Bielek and Duncan were in the control room and were shielded from the radiation. The Navy scheduled a second test for August 12 and set a deadline. The ship was meant to shift in time, making it invisible. However, after about 30 seconds of the experiment starting, the equipment went crazy and Bielek and Duncan observed strange effects in the control room, including electronic lights blinking in waves and high-voltage arcs appearing despite no high-voltage equipment in the room. They tried to reach someone on the radio but only heard crackling. When they went outside onto the deck, they saw a greenish mist and disoriented sailors running in circles. Bielek and his brother decided to jump off the board and swim to shore, but they never reached the water. They felt like they were falling through a tunnel and ended up at a military base in Long Island, New York. They were immediately caught by the military police and brought underground to meet an elderly civilian who claimed to be Dr. von Neumann. He told them that they were no longer in 1943 but in 1983 and welcomed them to Project Phoenix in Montauk. They were shown around the base and saw advanced technology that did not exist in 1943. Von Neumann explained to them that their ship was still in hyperspace and the bubble around it was growing. They were sent back to the ship to break the equipment because Montauk had complete control over space and time and could send them anywhere at any time. If they did not destroy the equipment, the bubble could encompass the entire planet. So something had to be done to stop it from growing. They were sent back to the ship to break the equipment. Bielek explains that they were skeptical at first, but they were sent back in time to the Eldridge. Their instructions were to destroy the equipment any way they could, so they began smashing the equipment until the generators stopped. However, before the ship reappeared in port, they saw that some of the sailors had been buried in the steel deck and bulkhead of the ship, including their younger brother Jim. He explained that this happened because during the rematerialization process from hyperspace into our reality, the molecular structure of the sailors' bodies shifted, causing them to remain in a liquid state. If they found themselves near a wall during this process, they got stuck in. Bielek and Duncan did not completely avoid this tragedy. Jim died that way, stuck in the steel, and Duncan jumped again before the fields broke up and completely went to 1983 or somewhere around that time. Bielek stayed on board and the fields again materialized. You lost your two brothers and traveled 40 years in time. Is it enough to drive the average person crazy? Yes, however, I remained normal, probably because of my training. Maybe I was chosen for this job by someone who knew more than myself. I have often asked myself, why me? When you travel in time, what is considered the present? Now is where you are. Your starting point is where you were born. There occurs a lock in time. Even as you move forward or backward in the flow of time, your starting point remains the same. Have you witnessed an alien intervention? In 1943, I did not see aliens. After that, we realized that they were there. I have a picture of Valiant Thor being coming from under the surface of Venus, made on Eldridge. The aliens were heavily involved in the Montauk. They were there apparently mostly between 1973 and 1983 when they were helping with the time tunnels. When asked why the government lets him speak so openly, Bielek says he can't explain it, but he has said enough things that others have been crucified for, yet no one has said anything to him. He encourages people to do their own research and investigate as there are enough documents available to support his claims. Bielek also gives information about the future. He says that doctors of the future use vibrating and light equipment for treatment, which is quite permissible and logical. He also says that the climate of the entire planet is going to be different and the US and Europe are much changed from what we see today. The central government will be collapsing and the world's population reaching 300 million people. Bielek died at the age of 84 or 94 if we accept his version, and was buried in Mexico. Whether Al Bielek's account proves the existence of a real-time machine, space-time travel and top-secret experiments that government doesn't want us to know about, we can't say for sure. But we think that this, unlike many other topics we have considered, is not a big mystery. For we ourselves know that if there is so much information circulating freely on the same topic, even if it seems false on the surface, there are common roots and the truth is somewhere there.